Hey everybody, it's been a minute. I've been sick and situation with Zora. So I try to do these at least once or twice a week. I think we're at once a week scheduling so far. Um, so I'm excited though because I have an author who has a unique book. I think it's particularly particularly interesting for our LinkedIn community, because a lot of times we start relationships in this pandemic. We don't really know the person. We're not really, and we're trying to give everybody grace and space, right? And you're trying to give the person the benefit of the doubt. Author Martika Shanel has an interesting book for us, I think, because it's talking about red flags and how to navigate what should be a healthy relationship. And in business and professional, that's something that is essential. So, Martika, can you tell us a little bit about yourself and what led you to write this particular genre of book?
Yes, hi everyone. So what led me to write this particular book is, I started off writing inspirational children's books. I love to write, but this one, there was a message that was resonating with me internally that I knew that I needed to release. Just something told me, hey, and yeah, put this project together, get it out, and it started to resonate with me. I'm a recent divorcee, and so at that time, at the impetus of that, and that's whenever I began to write, to get out my thoughts, and to really analyze the situation in terms of, how do we cultivate healthy relationships in general, and then also understanding that in order to cultivate healthy relationships externally, that we also have to do that internally as well. So the work really begins within, and then from there, you're able to build those types of relationships that you desire.
Um, One of the first things I noticed about developing a new relationship is that you start to, you know, you have a red flag that pops up and you start to make an excuse for that flag. So do
Mm.
you recommend when that first ding 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 red flag pops up, are you supposed to sit down and evaluate that first red flag? And if so, how do you evaluate that on the heaviness of it? Or, give, like we talked, I just said about giving grace and space, and people living through a pandemic and everybody's lost somebody. I don't know anybody that has not experienced some type of loss in the last 2 years. So, how do we evaluate through the lens of COVID, and we're in a virtual world now?
Yes, I would say you anything that's not resonating with your spirit, because that's what we should listen to is our intuition, our spirit. I do think that you should analyze it, regardless of the circumstances that are going on around us. Those are things that we have to internally dissect. I will say that everyone is going to have red flags. I have red flags. Martin, I don't know if you're aware, but you have red flags. Like, we all have them.
Oh no, I know, I have red flags. Yes,
But
definitely.
it's just understanding those and addressing those, all right, so that we're able to healthily keep those at bay and get through those, right, understanding our
Mhm.
triggers, etc. And
Right.
when we're talking about other people, we have to understand, are we willing to accept their red flags, and especially if they're heavy ones, right? Are we willing to accept those? And behind that is, are they working on their own red flags? Because if they're not working on them, then you're going to have to just deal with those. And do we know indefinitely? We're not sure. And so, and I also throw into in the book, I talk about how we should in a relationship, each party should be working on their own red flags, and that's the only way that it's going to be a healthy relationship. It can't be one sided. All right, every dog has to be in the fight.
Got it. So now, part of what I think in um, being a child, I won't say a child, but being a 20-something-year-old and starting to date online, from back in the day with Black Planet and Yahoo
Hmm.
Personals. There were certain things that or even MySpace, there were
Hmm.
certain things that people put on their profile that, you were kind of like, did they really mean that? And then when you met them, they didn't mean that.
Mm.
And so, how much? of what a person presents as bravado versus, sometimes people will say, who are you showing up as? Are you showing
Mm,
up as your representative? Or are you
right.
showing up as really who you are? Is there any tricks of the trade to kind of push past the bravado and the, kind of person is hyping himself up a little bit? Everybody
Hmm.
does it. And versus this person really is not that person. And they are
Hmm.
completely a different person. Their representative is who's in front of you.
Yeah, so that and that's a huge red flag there because you want to be with someone who's able to stand in their truth. And part of that is understanding who they are. Do they even know who they are, the essence of who they are? Because that's the kind of person that you want to cultivate a healthy relationship with. In a
Yeah.
relationship, yeah, both parties have to know who they are, and I talk about how to navigate that explicitly in my book, because it's important. It's almost impossible for you to have a genuine relationship if you're uncertain about the essence of yourself. And I'll leave it there because that is just a crucial aspect of not only external relationships, but just the one that you're having with yourself, which is the most important one.
Yeah. And shout out to Tamisha Campbell. Hey, Sister Campbell.
Hi,
And then
Tamisha.
Mhm. and then Dr. Fisher. Um, I tend to think that a lot of times we are looking for someone that's familiar to us, even though we
Mhm.
people say polar opposites attract and all that stuff.
Yeah.
I tend to think that we're looking for, and to your point, if we are not all together, you know, then we find ourselves, and
Mm.
then we're not happy with ourselves to begin with. Um, so any tips on tricks on doing that self-awareness and really understanding, who to who am I, so that if I am looking for me, I got me. Oh, I don't like me. So I
Mhm.
need to not find me. I need to find a
Yes.
different person.
Yeah, so I do have some tips on that, and I love that question, Martin. So two things. So there's an exercise in my book that helps you to. It's in the chapter called "Understanding You," and you get to dissect, your preferences, your non-negotiables, your boundaries that you would like
Hmm.
to have in place. So it really gets you thinking. You know what stirs my energy in the wrong way, what could potentially be a boundary for me, and that way you're able to really think about incidents that have happened that made you feel uneasy, for example, or that disturbed your energy in a certain way, and you're able to highlight what those boundaries are, because when we put it down on paper it becomes concrete and we're able to commit that to ourselves, right? It's like a covenant to ourselves. And so there's that for understanding you.
Hmm.
It's an exercise, and there are some other ones in there as well. In terms of if you are seeking a relationship, you can also write down, just different characteristics that you're looking for in a
Right.
mate. Yeah. And the additional thing aspect to that question is going on a self-discovery journey to really understand who you are. Because if you haven't taken the time to just genuinely be in your own space and be comfortable with that, date yourself, for example, intentionally, how do you really know who you are aside from being with someone else? So you really have to take that time away from everyone else to sit with yourself and your own thoughts.
I have to shout out to Future Kane. It's a good friend of mine. So that's one of her favorite things to say, especially on LinkedIn, is Martin, go sit with yourself.
Oh.
Yeah. Um, I think that it's interesting that concept of dating oneself came up because I don't think I've heard it in probably, I don't know, maybe 10 years. And I think at the time when I heard it, I was in transition between relationships. And one of the things was, are you afraid to be alone? And
Mm.
are you afraid to what does that look like, truly being alone? Like people say, oh, I'm gonna take time out, time off, time outs for myself, but they still show up at singles night, or they still they they still go to the And a lot of times it's your friends. It's not even that you are necessarily looking for that, but your friends will pop you in like, oh, let me. So any, I mean, I know it's a new journey for you, but maybe it's happening, maybe it's not. But in anecdotally,
Mhm.
have you heard of or observed any good way to tell your people or your tribe that look, I I'm being alone with myself right now. I don't need you to match make me. I don't need you to give me anybody, that I should, just keep this in mind. So I know you're not with nobody now, but when you
Mhm.
this guy, he's a good guy. He's really good.
Because they still do it anyway, right?
And I would say pre-COVID, yes. I feel like this is the great reset.
Mhm.
And in the reset, people are listening. Not necessarily they're following, but they're at least listening more.
Mhm.
So might have a unique opportunity to grab their attention and be like, "Hey, family and friends,
Yeah.
you know, I'm really being serious about being alone." But my question is,
Yeah.
have you heard of or do you have any good way to convey that communication to your peoples?
I do, Martin, and believe it or not, I've had a family member to say, hey, we have somebody for you, somebody that we've thought of for you.
Oh, Jesus, yeah.
And this was fresh after the split and everything, as we're going through the proceedings. And I politely
Uh,
told them, yeah, and I politely told them that right now I'm in a different season. I am in my selfish season, and I let them know that. And on top of that, I'm looking to meet, as I'm elevating, I'm looking to meet a different caliber of people. A
Mhm,
different pool of people, just
mhm,
because there are so many different experiences, in life, and you're not able to
mhm,
take part in that if you don't
mhm.
surround yourself with different people. So
Absolutely.
yeah, so I'm looking forward to that. I know that it's forthcoming. I'm putting in the work now, and that's how I convey that to them. I just say, just speak your truth, whatever that is, and stand in that.
Excellent. Where can people purchase the book at, and how do they get in touch with you?
Yes, yes. So if you want to purchase a copy of my newest book, What to Do with These Red Flags, you're able to do so on, if you go to Amazon.com, you can do that. And you can just type in the title. Easier way is if you follow me on Instagram, for example, you can hit the link in my bio. It's at Martika Chanel. If you're into websites, www.martikachanel.com. It's one of the first photos you'll see. You can select the link there. But yeah, and you're also able to read reviews as well on Amazon in terms of how it's resonated with other individuals, both men and women. And I want to be clear on that this is a book for everyone. The pronouns used in the book are gender neutral. It's really a book. And I've even gotten messages, for example, Martin, if I may, from men telling me how it's resonated with them. So and
That's
that
what's up.
maybe it's a good feel good moment, right? Because I'm like, yes,
Right.
that's the goal. It's for the book to be universal. It's also written in a conversational style that is fitting for everyone, for all types of audiences. But yeah, so there, Amazon. You can go to my website, Instagram as well, and if you're on the other platforms, you can also find me on those as well.
Excellent. All right. Well, that's good. I'm glad to have you, to have this chance to talk to you, and definitely, I've posted the link to this interview in our Black LinkedIn group, and
Okay.
please definitely go. And if there's any questions that people have, you guys can ask Martika any questions in the post. Um, and we're excited to see what your next title is going to be. So definitely come
Thank
back
you.
and we can have a chat on that one.
All right. Thank you so much, Martin. I really do appreciate it. And thank you all, everyone, for joining and watching.
All righty. See y'all later.
Bye.